One.
Welcome to the new JFK Show number 137. We're going to go ahead and flip our half-hour glass and get going. I have something that really touched my heart. It happened just yesterday. As you know, I've been asking people to pray for me, and I got a letter in the mail. I can't see if y'all can see it good, but this came from a Catholic church on the North Shore, and I said, well, I can't really, I wasn't even going to bother opening it, but then I did decide to open it, and this was on the front, and then come to find out, someone had asked the pastor of this church to pray for me, and I looked and see who it was. It was actually Liz Garrison.
Wasn't that dear?
Yes.
Isn't that dear, Gary?
Yeah, it sure is. So,
Didn't I meet her when I was there with you in New Orleans and we went out to dinner?
Jasper. You
no, not Liz.
Oh, Jasper.
Liz will not go around a microphone. She will not do an interview. She just doesn't want to go there. But I happen to be personal friends with her. But I didn't know that she was going to do this for me. And it really is special. Larry said before we started recording that it's a shame that Jim Garrison's not around to see all this. Well, You know what? Jasper's going to be in my studio tomorrow, and Liz knows about it. So we're doing our job, guys.
Full screen.
Gary, you got your cursor up there where it shouldn't be.
There you go. All right, we're full screen. All right, so once again, we've got Larry Rivera just rolling over everyone involved. So we've got the backyard photographs tonight, and this is going to be based around a YouTube video that I recommend everyone see. It's called Fake, The Framing of Lee Harvey Oswald, and it's a film by Jack White. And so we're going to be going back in time, and there have been lots of good work in this area. And there's a guy named Steve Jaffey who actually lives in New Orleans. He was in the Garrison tapes, so we'll be discussing him. So once again, glad you're here, Dr. Fetzer. Glad you're here, Don. And we're going to turn it over to Larry and let him steer the ship.
Hey, good evening, everybody. You know, and I get a lot of emails from people that tell me that, you know, the information that we cover in these shows, you know, is something that they've never heard or seen, you know, and that to keep up the good work. So I wanted to tell you guys that can't mention the names.
You actually have viewers out there?
Yeah, amazing. You know, I can't wait for the next show. You know, follow your shows. You know,
yeah, we have going on 4,000 subscribers now, and it's steadily climbing. And we got almost 250 just in the last couple of days. So we're doing all right.
Well, backyard photos is something that's been researched ever since the assassination, and different investigators have done a lot of really, really good work that we're going to cover here tonight, and sort of try to bring this up to speed, you know, with the technology available today, specifically some overlays and images that we have been creating with the blender and you know, and some of the three-dimensional programs that are out there that can be applied to the assassination. We've already done, for example, the Ogden 6 photograph as a Zapruder film. You know, so I figured that the backyard photos would be the next logical step. So if you guys want to take it,
would you like to read it so we don't put a strain on our one-eyed man?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll read a little bit tonight.
Yeah, but isn't this all a conspiracy theory, though?
Yeah. Goldberg, you know, like elves.
Didn't John McAdams debunk all this?
Yeah, it's been completely debunked.
Here we go, the backyard photos. Yeah. Of course, we would be remiss if we failed to conduct overlay studies of the famous backyard photographs, which convicted Lee Oswald in the public's eye. In this chapter, we will establish the same hypothesis as the early researchers who concluded these had been artificially produced and set out to confirm or refute their results using the computer overlay techniques extensively outlined in Chapter 8.
Which was I'm sorry, I just want to interject, Jim, which was the identification of Doorman.
In that chapter, we introduced the concept of the probe image, which was our controller unknown, versus our gallery image, which we superimposed onto our probe. First, let us take a look at the background of these photographs.
Oh, yes.
The Loose Time Life Empire published this one 3 months after the assassination on February 21st, 1964.
Yeah, it's
All right.
amazing. This one isn't.
Y'all want to talk about the picture, or y'all want to continue reading?
No, just because this is like an introduction, Gary. Just,
Go ahead and say a few words, Larry, if you want.
Well, this one was really when Life magazine publishes something like this, it's like John Q. Public automatically is going to take this as gospel, So, what else can be said about this? Obviously, we know the connections that Time Life and other media giants have had, especially in the '60s and their activities, and where Jim has very, very correctly pointed out that what was it, Jim? 90-something% of the media are really working for who. So,
Well, they're owned by
Yeah, I could be ringing the bell the whole time. Right?
That's right. Go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
You talk about the media.
All right, here we go. All right, so once again, first of all, my mother, when this first came out, we still have the magazine, and she just looked at it and said, "That guy should be falling down." And that was one of the things Jack White talked about.
Yeah.
Off center of balance.
Yeah, we're gonna cover that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that in the backyard, or was that like a lunar type shot with low gravity?
Well, it's amazing some of the stuff that they did with these photographs. But this is as the Warren Commission published what is known as Commission Exhibit 133A and B. However, these were in volume 16. However, the CE 133C did not surface until the 1970s, and of all places, in the possession of Geneva White, Roscoe White's widow. So.
Quick question.
That will be of particular significance as we proceed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, quick question, Larry. You're about to use James' book out. Would this have been in your presentation, even though Ralph Sinkay hadn't brought it up?
Yeah, because Bookout was present for all of the interrogations of Lee Oswald from day one. And in fact, there are about 5 or 6 reports of specific interactions between Lee Oswald and the interrogators. We could do a whole show on that one of these days. But yeah, obviously, Tom Kelly, Secret Service agent in charge, Captain Fritz, Bookout, and that Roger Craig had been in on some of those, at least on one of those occasions where he walked in and remember the incident where he talked about Lee leaving the TSBD or Dealey Plaza in the Rambler, and that they had said that he was wrong, and then later on, photographs, I believe published by Chief Curry, came out that showed Roger Craig right there in the office. Also, I'm sorry, Gary Shaw, who published that in Cover Up in 1976. But what's important is how Lee Oswald conducted himself during these interviews, and that's why we have this original document, which is a report by Tom Kelly. I think this one is just unbelievable. That's why I posted this one, and if anybody wants to go ahead and read this one is really, really good.
When the photographs were presented to Oswald, he sneered at them, saying that they were fake photographs, that he had been photographed a number of times the day before by the police, and apparently after they photographed him, they superimposed on the photographs a rifle and put a gun in his pocket. He got into a long argument with Captain Fritz about his knowledge of photography and asked Fritz a number of times whether the smaller photograph was made from the larger, or whether the larger was made from the smaller. He said at the proper time he would show that the photographs were fakes. Fritz told him that the smaller photograph was taken from his effects at the garage. Oswald became arrogant and refused to answer any further questions concerning the photographs and would not identify the photographs as being a photograph of himself. Captain Fritz displayed great patience and tenacity in attempting to secure from Oswald the location of what apparently is the backyard of an address at which Oswald formerly lived. But it was apparent that Oswald, although slightly shaken by the evidence, had no intention of furnishing any information. The interview was terminated at about 7:10 scratch to 7:15 p.m. Right. Thomas Kelly.
That's a very interesting point. Gary, wait, don't leave it up a little bit there.
Okay.
Where he was slightly shaken by the evidence, but he had no intention of furnishing any information. Cool, calm, and collected, the same way that he acted remember we did that show on the New Orleans recordings. the radio recordings and the debates and everything discussed, you know, how cool, calm, and collected Lee Oswald projected himself to be, and this is no different here.
Scroll down.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oswald knew the fix was in, and
Yeah, I think as soon as he was told these had come from his effects in the garage, he knew the whole thing was a plant.
yeah.
I tried to get a hold of this guy to be on our show tonight, but I wasn't able to get a hold of him. Mr. Jaffey.
That was good. Yeah, he's here, right? He's in New Orleans.
Yeah, I had the number, but someone said it was he wasn't there. So
There's a mountain of research already done related to these photographs. In the video, the Garrison tapes, produced and directed by John Barber, photographic expert Stephen Jaffey, 2625, concisely demonstrated how these had been fabricated by superimposing transparencies of the two photos, paying particular attention to the head and the body.
And that photo there in the black and white, that's the actual overlays that he did. So this is actually a precursor to what we are being able to do now with computers and information systems. So that's why it was important to establish, you know, the prior research that had been done on this.
Whoever framed Oswald evidently used only one picture of his face and planted it on someone else's body. I don't know why it says sick. That would mean a mistake, but it would be someone else's body. Then to give the face on the right a different look, it seems they gave it a slight tilt as missing here. It seems they airbrushed some of the facial features and tilted the head slightly, and in doing so, they tilted the shadow under his nose. That it was one face is easily demonstrated. If you take the face on the right and superimpose it over the face on the left, the features line up. But when you slide the face back, you see that it had to be tilted.
Well, that's the actual citation, the transcript of what we're going to see now, that Gary's going to play now.
yeah, here we go.
Why don't you center it, Gary? Pull it up.
He showed the famous backyard photograph to Oswald during the 12 hours of interrogation. And Oswald said it's a fake, and I can prove it, and I will prove it in time.
Shortly after Oswald's arrest, Dallas police found 2 backyard photographs showing Oswald proudly posed with 2 communist newspapers, a rifle, and a pistol. Stephen Jaffey, a photographic analyst and investigator for Jim Garrison, confirmed for Garrison what Oswald did not live to prove himself.
Whoever framed Oswald evidently used only one picture of his face and planted it on someone else's body. Then to give the face on the right a different look, it seems they airbrushed some of the facial features and tilted the head slightly. And in doing so, they tilted the shadow under his nose. That it was one face is easily demonstrated. If you take the face on the right and superimpose it over the face on the left, the features line up. But when you slide the face back, you see that it had to be tilted. The second and more obvious proof is with the position of the bodies. The body on the right seems to be closer to the camera. If so, the head should be larger. However, you can see when you slide it over the face on the left, the faces are the same size. This means the bodies should be the same height. They are not.
News of Oswald's arrest flashed the world immediately.
Okay. Slide on down so we can check out some of his images. Yeah, okay. This is what he's talking about. Obviously, we've drawn the red lines through the area of the notes, and what we're going to be looking at now is it has to do with the symmetry of that shadow. Okay, that is key in understanding the optics of this photograph. Okay, obviously when you change the orientation of the light source, that shadow is going to change. Okay, and that's what we're going to demonstrate in a little bit. But Jaffey, you know, with these images, you know, I thought that they were right on the money, because they demonstrate very clearly what's going on here.
Yeah, old school, boy, old school.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how all these government assassins and terrorists or whatever have all these self-incriminating material.
Yeah.
About, you
Just happen to have, the passport at the bottom in New
yeah, that's
York.
what I was gonna say. The passport, in New York, and then, they had cars full of Korans and terrorist plans and all that, and Oswald. I mean, come on. What would-be assassin is going to take a picture of himself? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm planning on clipping the president, but I'm going to make sure I got plenty of pictures of myself with my rifle in the backyard.
Or leave the scene in public transportation.
Yeah, and I'm going to make sure I got a commie rag I'm holding up too, while I'm at it.
Yeah, they used for a ruler actually, and actually shot themselves in the foot. So,
man.
All right.
Okay, this is basically this is just the transcript of what we just heard, so you can just.
Well, no, I think it's good to go over it. The second more obvious proof is with the position of the bodies. The body on the right seems to be closer to the camera. If so, the head should be larger. However, you see when you slide it over the face on the left, the faces are the same size. This means that the bodies should be the same height. They are not. Jack White also did brilliant and extensive work on the backyard photos, and his research is covered in his famous 1990 video, Fake. The composite photographs fabricated to frame Lee Harvey Oswald for the murders of President Kennedy and Officer Tippit. White starts at 18 minutes and 19 seconds of the video.
I wanted to make a small observation. I was looking for that video on YouTube, and it's been taken out. It's not there anymore.
Fake?
Yeah.
No, I watched it today before the show, so I would be up on it. I watched it already.
Okay.
Yeah, so, all right, y'all ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Talking about Jack White, one of the legendary people in JFK. Well, who's this character?
Oh, I don't know.
That looks like a younger.
And heavier.
Yeah, you're looking good.
That was at ASK 93, and what I'm holding there actually is the video, the fake, but the glare doesn't allow you to see.
You still have it?
Of course.
Better still have it.
Of course.
Yeah. There you go.
Jack was a great guy.
Oh yeah.
When he flipped CE 133A, he showed how ridiculous the figure looked and questioned its ability to remain upright and balanced. He also pointed out the anomaly shown at the right. Let's see, the shoulders match. The right arm is an exact match. The left arm too short.
Or non-existent. Or he couldn't even find it. He couldn't find the elbow or anything like that. And maybe recreations of the backyard of that exact pose and the tilt of the body, and the guy just couldn't do it.
Yeah, you break your arm. Break your arm.
He observed the belated arrival of the third photograph, which did not surface until the 1970s in the HSCA, and which had been in the hands of Roscoe White's widow, Geneva. Quote, it had been suppressed for 15 years, according to Jack. Okay, that's fine and dandy. However, as the video points out, why then did the FBI use the pose shown in CE 133C to recreate the backyard photos back in 1964? They certainly screwed the pooch on this one.
Go ahead, move it.
That's a very nice point.
Yeah, because this photograph was taken in 1964, Jim, and then but the actual backyard photo, which is 133C, doesn't show up until the 70s. So what's going on there?
Robert and Patricia Hester worked at a Dallas photo lab that weekend, told Jim Mars they saw the backyard photos in the hands of the FBI the night of the assassination, which Mars points out was the day before they were officially discovered by the Dallas Police Department. They, the Hesters, were processing films and photographs for the FBI and Secret Service, reported Mars.
Let's check it out.
So you think maybe the provenance of these photos is in question?
All right. Now, it's possible that this isn't going to play for some reason. Let's see. I knew it was going to happen.
Turn it up.
It's up. I was having this problem earlier. All right. So what I'll do, I'll insert that in, but we'll go ahead and read because this is exactly what they're saying in there.
Right.
I first interviewed Robert Hester in the late 1970s. He told me he saw the backyard photos in the hands of the FBI the night of the assassination. He was quite insistent on this fact. Of course, that is the day before the photos officially were discovered. In later years, his wife Pat confirmed this story and told me and other Texas researchers that the FBI even had a color transparency of one of the photos, as well as a picture of Oswald's backyard, but with no one in the picture. They were very certain about all of this.
And there it is. I found this one at the Texas Archives there, where they have a lot of the original assassination records from the Dallas Police Department.
Larry, that's sensational work. I've never seen this photograph before.
Yeah.
The video also points out the simple, relevant fact. Furthermore, an intensive search of Oswald possessions failed to turn up either the dark shirt or the dark pants seen in the photographs.
That's important. That's important because nobody has ever talked about that. Okay.
Yeah.
We're the clothes that the Backyard Man, which I have dubbed now, his name now is Backyard Man. Where are the clothes? You know,
Yeah,
I need to ask Geneva.
Belongings at all.
Yeah, never found a watch either like
I
that.
think we need to ask Geneva, Larry.
Yeah, right.
Michael Griffith wrote an exhaustive article in 1966 in the Dealey Plaza Echo that discussed the many anomalies with the photographs. The article validated and confirmed Jack's work, such as the edit lines across the chin, the bulging neck, the non-movement of features between the three photographs, the shadows, which show the same photo of Lee Oswald, was used in all three photos. So what in the world is there to debate? Is this evidence not enough to sway the reader that these photos were fabricated and were the linchpin that clinched Lee Oswald's guilt on the cover of Life magazine, no less? We begin, yes.
Well, let's begin by creating some photogrammetric studies of 133A, B, and C, which we have done before in previous work that we have done on the identification of the men in the doorway. And it's the same procedure here, Jim. What we do, in this case, I followed Jack's work here where he had color-coded these. If you look at the video fake, he actually, at a certain point of his research, he color-codes them. So what I did, I just did the same thing and followed his lead and ran some lines across, as we always do. You know, we scale and line up everything and then run lines through the eyes and set the interpupillary distance and so on and so forth. And this is what we come up with. And it seems like Jaffey was right, Jack was right. The same photograph was used in all three of the backyard photos. And this overlay shows that the superimposition of all three layers and highly suggests that the same photograph was used in the preparation of all three of the different poses, blue, sepia, green, colors that we borrowed from White's research that I just mentioned. Now, note that the green on the right had to be slightly rotated a few degrees into proper alignment, which is what Jaffey was talking about earlier when he said that the 133C was tilted, and when they did it, they also tilted the shadow. Now, this next image is an overlay of all three of the elements here, and I thought that this one is just amazing because everything lines up perfectly, and we've set up the grid and everything in case.
And just to observe the suppressed premise, if you're taking photographs of a person in different poses, and of course it can't be at exactly the same time, there should be subtle differences, in particular in the face, its expression, and so forth. But here there are none.
And another thing, when we're going to go into a little bit more detail on the angles of the sun and the camera and everything, and if you consider that this was supposedly taken by Marina, and Marina is a shorter person, obviously the angle of the camera of the line of sight is going to be upwards. Am I right? So
slightly upward, yeah.
Yeah, slightly upward. You know, and that's something that we can figure out with Blender and with the proper software. Go ahead.
The nose shadows coincide and match perfectly. Jaffey and White, whom we mentioned earlier, pointed out how the shadow under the nose tilted to the right, along with the inserted head. Only slight retouching of the mouth was necessary to make the two appear to have been different from one another. This overlay supports both the Jaffey and White hypotheses. Even more proof. The next battery of tests address the authenticity of backyard photographs and are actual overlays of known photographs of Lee Oswald onto the backyard photo CE133C, the one on the left, which will be our probe. Our gallery images are the same ones used in Chapter 8, the New Orleans Police Department mugshots. This overlay sequence combines the NOPD photographs onto to backyard photo CD-133C shown above.
Which I don't think anybody has ever done.
No,
you know?
I'm sure they haven't.
Go in and fetch, actual images, photographs of Lee, and overlay them and see, if everything matches. So, and very interesting results we're going to talk about here.
5-panel collage showing major differences in head width between Lee Oswald and Backyard Man and CE-133C, meaning the man who stood in for Lee, upon whom Lee's face was superimposed, had a thicker skull.
Well, we're going to see that there's an alternative to that, and it has to do. We'll go on now because I have a somewhat different theory, and that's what we're going to talk about now.
Perfect. This technique yields startling results in these overlays. The outline in red belongs to the backyard figure, whereas the eyes, nose, and mouth line up perfectly when the probe and gallery images are overlaid onto one another. The right side of the backyard subject protrudes in comical fashion. This includes the right side of the neck, right here, and all the right side of the head on up to the crown. This neck image is known as the ghost image, which was found in Dallas Police Department files. Their explanation was that the detectives in whose desk it was discovered wanted to experiment and find out if it was possible to create these.
A likely story.
Yeah. Go ahead. This...
When the head is inserted, we can see why the composite had to be airbrushed to fill in the white spaces.
Now that is a possibility of why we see the head larger than normal, than what the Lee Oswald's head was. Once they inserted this overlay, they had that little extra space around, which was white. And obviously they couldn't leave that there, and they had to smooth it out and blend in the head with by airbrushing there. I don't know what's your opinion on that, Jim?
Well, I think that's one of the two alternatives. Either the stand-in on whose image the face was imposed did have a larger head, or, as you suggest, they simply had to cover over the white spaces, and in doing so created the very impression we discover when we superimpose.
Yes.
And just to continue, and when the head is inserted, we can see why the composite had to be airbrushed to fill in the white spaces. Why Blender is important. As discussed in previous chapters, with Blender, we can set our models up in 3D space and simulate the position of the sun at any time of the day. How does a Blender model behave when subjected to a single light source from above, in this case, the sun? Here's our Blender layout in front and right orthographic views.
Yes.
This combination of sun and camera positions produce the image seen at the left.
Yeah, okay, now what we've done here is just a simple, this is like a calibration thing here doing, setting the light source, in this case the sun, completely up above and slightly to the front, so we can start working with how these shadows are produced, okay? And to obtain the very first image that we're looking for, which is how that shadow under the nose was produced, okay? Because like I mentioned before, it's a very symmetrical shadow. And again, also the position of the camera, which at this point I placed it exactly at face level, but which could have been a little lower and with a little angled upwards a little bit there, because Marina was shorter. But regardless of that, well, what this the image that's produced by this particular setup gives us this image on the left there, and as you can see, the shadows are very well balanced, left and right. Okay, the vertical shadows are symmetrical, at least mostly, and the nose. What we were looking for here is to replicate that nose shadow, and by doing this, what we were able to establish is that in order to get that nose shadow, that light source, the sun, had to have been right above, as we have illustrated above. Now, this is an overlay that I did with the CE-133A, and moving that same image that we did above that showed the sun completely overhead. And if you look at the red box, everything seems to line up, including the shadows, okay? And how the shadows of the eyes and the nose and the lips and everything seems to be almost perfectly replicated here.
Just to make the obvious point, and with Blender, you could move the sun at various positions to determine exactly when you get the right effect found in the photograph.
That's right, and we're gonna see some illustrations coming up now. Go ahead.
Above, we show the shadow of the nose, which is symmetrical, points directly at 6 o'clock, as with the first of the backyard photographs, CE 133A. This is what we see when we overlay the Oswald head onto our model. The eye and nose shadows are symmetrical and consistent with this type of light source, and clearly indicates that the sun or other light sources is directly above, which we have replicated in our Blender model. Note that in this collage, the model's head is tilted 6 degrees to the right, which slightly distorts the shadow toward the right, making it asymmetrical, as shown in this blow-up.
Yes, and this is key, okay? If you look closely at the red square, this is the tilted head, okay? And this is the way that shadow should have behaved. This is the way that the shadow, as you can see, as you tilt to the right, that shadow is going to move a little bit to the right, okay? So it's now falling a little bit, and you can see, it's perfectly visible here. It's not completely asymmetrical, and this is just tilting it 6 degrees just to test what would be the resulting image here. So this is very interesting.
An interesting and unintended result of this experiment is the vast amount of shadow cast under the model's chin, covering all the neck and upper chest down to the upper sternum. This happens in both the straight up and the tilted model. This effect, however, is not seen in the backyard figure. This suggests the possibility that Oswald's head might have been pasted above the chin line in the following manner.
That's right.
Many researchers have proposed that the chin and body actually belong to Roscoe White and have pointed out an edit line below Backyard Man's lower lip seen in the above collage.
And that was taken from, I'm sorry, that was taken from Jack's video. So I just wanted to give credit.
Boy, that chin's identical.
Yeah, remember how Oswald's chin sort of comes to a point with a slight cleft. But Roscoe's chin shown below doesn't. It's a blocked chin, very unlike Oswald's.
And we're going to see the overlay now coming right up, Jim. Thanks for the segue.
This next image is an animated overlay isolation of White's chin onto the chin of Backyard Man. They seem to line up perfectly. And this image shows that Lee Oswald's chin was pointier and had a very particular cleft.
These are overlays. The first one, if you look closely, the first one is an animation and is going from the 0 opacity up to 50% opacity.
I just love this stuff, Larry. You're doing a brilliant job with all of this. It's absolutely sensational.
Thank you.
This is one of those areas where with the increases in technology, you're able to review past research and greatly improve upon it and confirm some hypotheses and reject others.
That's right.
I mean, these photos didn't stand up to scrutiny 20 years ago, and let alone the 2017.
Yeah, and Larry Rivera.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and here, this collage here shows how the difference between Oswald's chin and Backyard Man. I mean,
it's so blatant. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I know.
It's blunt. There's nothing subtle about it. It's absolutely blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing that he was able to discover it was Roscoe White. I mean, there's a lot of chins in Dallas, Texas,
Fareed. I'll let you take this one over, Jim.
On October 18, 2015, is it Henry? It's Hanny, H-A-N-Y.
Oh, okay.
Hanny Fareed published a paper which tried to convince the world that the backyard photographs were authentic. He presented a 3D model which tried to mimic the backyard figure's position in CE 133A. The rendered model and its corresponding rig are shown below. Notice both Make Human and Blender are capable of this.
Before Gary goes on here, I just wanted to point out, because I think I mentioned it here, but this angle of the back on this model here on the left, doesn't it seem ridiculous, like he's pushing his chest or he's arching his back, and then at the same Yeah, and then
like
at the
someone's
same
got
time,
a foot on his back, you know.
yeah, I know. And then at the same time, he's tilting his head downwards with his chin towards his chest.
Absolutely abnormal.
But at the same time, he's looking towards the right, and this is not the way Backyard Man looks. Okay.
No.
So go ahead.
Right. Jim Fetzer and Jim Mars have thoroughly debunked Farrell's fairy tale and pointed out many instances of dishonest research unbecoming of a Dartmouth professor and scholar. Among these, that Farrell's model in no way, shape, or form replicates Backyard Man's posture. The manipulation of the model is obvious in an effort to reconcile the anomalous shadows that are not seen in the photos. The arching of the back and the leftward tilt of the chin are not present in Backyard Man. Furthermore, and more importantly, Fetzer correctly points out that Farrell crops both images to hide the shadow pattern of the lower body, which falls in a different direction as we have demonstrated above. That is why Farrell failed to include the lower body in his write-up. Just to mention in passing, the FBI gave Dartmouth a huge sum of money to finance a lab for Henny Farrell at Dartmouth to give him cover and the legitimacy of a Dartmouth position. This is very embarrassing because I even wrote to the president of Dartmouth about all this when we discovered the scandal, and of course received no response at all. In order to achieve the symmetrical shadow under the nose, it would have been necessary to align the light source sun into a frontal position, which in turn would have projected the lower body shadow behind the model as shown here.
Right. Okay, see that shadow, the body shadow is completely behind her. I mean, this is optics. This is physics, the physics of light and shadows. You know, you just can't defeat this. You know, it's
Lest I'm mistaken, this model is not an anatomically correct one.
Yeah, right.
The correct and only possible orientation where the sun casts the exact angle of shadow made by the lower body is this one shown in Blender top orthographic view. Okay,
this is a view of the scene. A little bit further down, Gary. It's a top ortho, and right. Okay, the sun is that yellow spot there on the right, and it's overhead, obviously. But what we're trying to illustrate here is the angle onto Backyard Man's body.
And I think what you're implying is that Henny Farrell had to do a lot of contortions, both with the environment and with the body, in order to justify his alleged claim, which of course had no proper warrant whatsoever. It's just a piece of contortion.
And I must add to that he picked the wrong 3D programs to do it, because if you're in computer graphics, you can tell right away that it's a fabrication.
Yeah, good, Larry.
Here, yes.
Which yields the following shadow patterns as viewed from above and in front.
Yeah, this is obviously the previous slide, the previous image was the top view, and this is what we do here is we're rendering the front and the top views of that shadow. And if you run it down a little bit, Gary, because I want to show you see the angle of the shadow there. If you look at the angle of the shadows of Backyard Man and the model, the angles seem, at least they're very, very close. So as far as how it is projected towards the back, towards the fence there. And which indicates to me that the position of the sun that we have placed in Blender is pretty accurate. It might not be 100%, but it's at least it's a pretty good illustration of where that sun would have been, where that light source would have been.
Which absent a space-time machine is as good as we're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Fetzer concludes, as far as I am aware, the Oswald photo shadows have never been, and cannot be duplicated under natural conditions with the sun as the sole light source, as shown in those damning photos that Oswald told us from the beginning were fakes. Out there has to be more than one honest scientist who will conduct a serious study using a real person, the real sun, at the required official date and place, with all the background details and the true solar positions, and can be determined by the very length of the shadows, how light glances off the shoes and so forth. And there you have an imposing stand-in.
I had to include that, Tim, because you were pathetic when you wrote that.
I love it, Larry. I love it.
That's exactly what we're able to do with Blender now. To do exactly what you mentioned in that paragraph.
And I believe this was part of a study I co-authored with Jim Mars. So I don't.
Yes. I found it on Scribd.
Yeah. Well, that's very good. Yeah, very good. You've done a great job here, Larry.
We did our homework. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
You guys want to kick it around for a little bit here?
Well, Jim had noticed, by the way, that Roscoe White has a little knob on, I believe it's his left wrist, and that is also true of Backyard Man. And when you said about the clothing, no one knows where the clothing is. Of course, that's the reason I suggest you check with Geneva White,
of course,
his wife, because she would have laundered them.
That's right, before her lobotomy.
It's very interesting. When I went to this little college just south of Charleston, Illinois, where our guy who knows so much about it, Ed Tetro.
Oh yeah, Ed Tetro.
And I gave a presentation. I talked about the shirt because I was talking about the identification of Doorman. Ed Tetro announced that he'd been in contact with Marina Oswald and that she confirmed that she had laundered that shirt.
Yeah, I know. He told me that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. If you remember, they were talking about how Oswald was cool, calm, and collected, and then we're going to also hear Jim Garrison say a couple of things, and then this is actually part of what we've seen before.
Only for the killing of Officer J.D. Tippett. When taken into custody, he had two different pieces of identification, one for Lee H. Oswald, the other for Alex James Heidel. He would not admit to being either one.
Full name is Lee Harvey Oswald, O-S-W-A-L-D.
I really don't know what the situation is about. Nobody has told me anything except that I'm accused of murdering a policeman. I know nothing more than that, and I do request for someone to come forward to give me a legal assistance.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
The Dallas officer in charge of the Tippett murder investigation was retired Detective James Lavelle, who was one of the first to interrogate Oswald.
His demeanor was awfully calm. I know that I could not have answered the questions in the same manner that he did, had I actually been guilty of killing two people.
Did you kill the president?
No, I have not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
Lee Oswald, who's been rewarded for his work in Russia, in the government's behalf, by being given training as an expert photographer. When they arrested him, he had over $3,000 worth of camera equipment, so he was no ordinary photographer.
According to Dallas Police Captain Wilfred's own notes, he showed the famous backyard photograph to Oswald during the 12 hours of interrogation. And Oswald said it's a fake. And I can prove it, and I will prove it in time.
Shortly after Oswald's arrest, Dallas police found two backyard photographs showing Oswald proudly posed with two communist newspapers, a rifle, and a pistol. Stephen Jaffey, a photographic analyst and investigator for Jim Garrison, confirmed for Garrison what Oswald did not live to prove himself.
Whoever framed Oswald evidently used only one picture of his face and planted it on someone else's body. Then, to give the face on the right a different look, it seems they airbrushed some of the facial features and tilted the head slightly, and in doing so, they tilted the shadow under his nose. That it was one face is easily demonstrated. If you take the face on the right and superimpose it over the face on the left, the features line up. But when you slide the face back, you see that it had to be tilted. The second and more obvious proof is with the position of the bodies. The body on the right seems to be closer to the camera. If so, the head should be larger. However, you can see when you slide it over the face on the left, the faces are the same size. This means the bodies should be the same height. They are not.
What about Jim Garrison talking? Whoops.
I love it. This is all wonderful. Larry, let me make a suggestion. Look for photos of Roscoe White and see.
I did.
Yeah, they're Scotia, huh? They're not widely available.
It's the pose that I've been looking for, the right pose. I have a few of them, but I couldn't find, and I was looking for that bump on his, above the wrist.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't worry about that. No, I would just see if you could find just the face to superimpose it to resolve that question of whether it was filling in the white space or whether Roscoe really did have a slightly larger head than Lee, which I believe.
And he did. Oh, yes, he did. He did. Much larger. Much larger.
Here's some photographs.
Yeah, right. I have to see the DPD photo right there. Yeah, I have that one. Yeah, that's a great idea. See,
Roscoe White with a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
How about Roscoe White looking a little bit like the Backyard Man with a little chin there?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. There's a.
Oh, somebody's already done it. There you go. Right there on the right. On the right.
Which one? Right here?
No, on the right. You got to scroll up.
This one here?
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah.
Above. Right there. Right there.
Open it up. There you go.
This one? Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Look how he's standing there. Man, oh, that's.
Oh, wait, I messed up. Hold on. We'll go right back. Yeah. There we go.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great.
He's got the right height. He's got the right build.
And the pose and everything.
Gary, where did you go?
Don't forget the bump.
Gary, where did you go? We were looking at the photograph.
Oh, right there. It's right there.
Oh. That one.
Yeah.
This is very, very interesting. Can you move it to the center of the screen?
Like that?
No, the whole image. No, not top. Yeah, there you go. That's fine.
Now it actually brings me to a different website every time I try to do that.
All right.
Just have to go with that one.
All right.
Don't touch it.
Pull it all the way over so we get. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Oh.
The vicissitudes.
Here it is. Here's
Larry, you've been doing just sensational stuff. I love it. It is Hanny, Hany, H-A-N.
Okay, yeah, I'll make that correction.
Oh, yeah. Look, we located the bump on the wrist.
There, that's the one.
Oh, very good. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
That's the photo I was looking for.
We got it.
Busted once again. So
look at the chin again. But look, you can see his head is bigger than Lee's, see?
Yes. Yeah, and that's what happened when they
Larry, you can make a couple tweaks to your chapter now.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff.
all right. Well, y'all want to close it out, fellas? Or y'all want to
No, I think we're about the point. Don, you want to add anything?
Yeah. I just wanted to chip in. I mean, just how much evidence has been, altered and just outright fabricated in this case. I mean, these backyard photos. I mean, come on, a 12th grade or probably a 10th grade student in high school now with Photoshop could probably figure this out.
That's right. It's really got to do with just once you focus on the evidence, it really becomes indisputable. I mean, it just becomes so obvious, plain as day.
Well, I wanted to add to that you should see what some of these kids are doing with Blender. And we're talking about teenagers,
Yeah.
I love it. We got a whole new generation of sophisticated forensic students.
Yeah.
It's over for the Warren Commission guys. So, all right. Any final thought, Dr. Fetzer?
Oh, I think Larry's just doing this most sensational stuff. I love all of it. This was a wonderful presentation tonight. I think we're all just delighted with being right here at the cutting edge on the new JFK show.
You got it. All right, this has been the new JFK show number 137. Liz Garrison, I love you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
All right.